Alright, so in the video today I'm going to be going over a couple of things that I've done with live photos in the past, and I ran across a recent example that I wanted to demonstrate so that I can inform people on sometimes the way that the images get put together. So back a couple months ago there was a show called Crazy Little Thing Called Love, and this is one of the images from it. You probably won't know by looking at this, but this is not one image, this is actually two images. So in the one image that I originally got, the snake head down here was not visible. He had ducked behind her back, and the face in the one shot that she had was slightly blurry. She was just moving her head at the time that I took the picture, and because it was low light, I didn't have the camera shooting quite fast enough to capture her. So I had two images, one that worked as far as the snake head, seeing it well and seeing it, details in the light, and it wasn't blurry, and another where she was actually looking the opposite way, and her face was in focus, and I liked the smile and I liked the lighting. So it's probably hard to tell now because I put a lot of time into it, but I swapped her head from a different picture onto this one so that both her and the snake were looking in the same direction. And then I just carefully photoshopped around her hand and around the snake over here to blend the hair so it matched the hair that she had in this shot, because I didn't want to make it look too obvious. So most people won't even know. Most people who look at the picture will just think that all I did was black out the background. They didn't know I actually replaced her entire head and the snake head. Because she was looking the opposite way, I had to match the light that is on the orange and yellow that is on her hand and on the snake skin over here as well. And on if you can see on her fingers, when she was looking the opposite way, her face was much darker, right around her forehead and her nose and the hair. So I went back in with a dodge and burn tool and very, very lightly took a kind of a dark yellowish orange and I think a red as well, just to help out with the hair because it wasn't looking quite right with the orange. But basically just touched it up so it looks like they're both coming from the same light source, and matched up so her hair flows down same as it would in the picture below her hand, which was the original shot. And so yeah, that was the final image. So for today I have an image, actually I have two images that I wanted to try and put together. This is one of the first ones, and as you can see this is of a troupe at MedFest, and the picture itself, you can tell by looking at it, actually cuts off right here, and there are still two and a half more dance members who are not in the picture, because the frame would either be so wide that I would be getting also the roof of the stage and the bottom of the stage, and it would be a much farther away shot. I wanted to have a much closer shot, so what I did really quickly while they were dancing, because it's harder to get a group in one image in one frame than it is a soloist, I took one shot really quickly here, and then I tried to be very, very still, and I moved my camera just a little bit more to the right, and I got this image. So I was able to get them all in two pictures, and I'll show you how I'm going to put those together to make a complete image, sort of a widescreen image. So the first thing I want to do is go through here and select in the square box, select this part of the image, copy, and then I'm going to paste it into here after I have made, as you can see, I've made the image a little wider already. I went in and pre-did that so it wouldn't take the time to do it while I'm doing the video. So I'm basically just going to paste that image in there, so now we have basically the entire group, but obviously there's some mistakes still to clean up. So right away I can see that I want to go in here with the pen tool, the eraser tool. I go in the eraser tool and an opacity of 100 and a fairly soft brush, about 100. Oh, I actually want to go more, 158 as far as size. And I'm going to go and eliminate the other dancer from the image that has half of her. As you can see, that still makes a little bit of a problem here with the other dancer, but I'm going to go in and very lightly just try and touch this stuff up. You won't even be able to notice. She probably won't even be able to notice. Alright, so that is the majority of the image that I want. However, if you can see down here, there is a woman's head that was in the foreground. And unfortunately, there are not a whole lot of things that I could do normally as far as the photo goes, but I had an idea and I'm going to try it out. So I do have another shot of her skirt, and I'm going to go in and using the lasso tool, I'm going to quickly draw around her skirt and around her waist. Just sort of a crude, rough drawing, but once I have that selected, I'm going to copy and paste. Now, obviously she's facing the opposite direction, so what I'm going to do is flip it horizontally. That way she's at least mostly facing the same way. And I'm going to have to slightly adjust it using the free transform tool. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's only going to be the lower half of the skirt of the outfit. I don't necessarily want to have it all. I just want to kind of blend it in as much as possible together with what was already there, just enough that I can eliminate the woman's head that was in the foreground. If she was in focus, I probably wouldn't really care a whole lot, but since it's blurry, it just looks kind of like a, I don't know, it looks kind of like a mess. So I'm not quite adjusted yet. I'm going to drop down the opacity on this layer so I can see a little bit more of how it's lining up. Okay, and that's a little bit better. Alright, so then I'm going to select the brush tool again, the opacity down to about 37, and a brush of about 156. Guess I better adjust that up so I can see what I'm doing. So I definitely want to make sure that her hands are visible. So I'm going to go in and erase the skirt that's now laying on top of this layer. And right now I'm just blending this out, so hopefully the skirt kind of flows from one image to the other. Check and see how it's looking. Okay, there's a few things here around the black belted areas that need eliminated still. Alright, now it looks a little on the odd side, so what I'm going to do is hide that for a second. I'm going to go down here to my clone stamping tool, select the layer, select the area right around where the skirt is at, and then I'm just going to move down a little bit and kind of clone stamp in some more of this skirt. Okay, I don't know why I did that. Back up. Alright, so now I'm going to go back up to the layer now that I've done that. Select the eraser tool again, and I'm going to go with an opacity of about 23. Oh, it's still on my clone stamping tool. Okay, opacity of about 20. And I'm just going to lightly go right here just to get rid of some of those lighter parts, just to help out blend it in a little bit more. And there's still some white of her hair there that is showing a little too well. So now that I'm done with that, go and turn it back on. Okay, for the most part, most people won't even be able to notice once it is far enough. Alright. So the next thing is the last dancer on the right is just a little bit too far right for my tastes, I guess. So I am going to, again, select the lasso tool. Some people use the pen tool. Some people use the lasso tool. You'll have different people tell you what's right and what isn't. So I went in and I selected her, and now I'm going to use the move arrow tool, and I'm going to scoot her just a little bit to the left. Alright, now for helping on the background, I'm going to select the brush tool with white, opacity of 100, and I'm just going to draw I must still have something selected. There we go. Okay. So then I'm going to draw white along this top border where the pictures don't quite line up because they were slightly different sizes. I must have shifted the camera a little bit in my hand. Get rid of that pole right behind the dancer's head. And I'm just sort of crudely drawing with a large brush just to get all the majority of the white blocks out from being around. Alright, so now I will select the brush tool with vivid light and about 15%. And I'm going to go back into the first layer, still at that same size. Make sure that your brush tool is not on the hard level because that will make it look strange. Okay, so I'm just going to go back in and draw somewhat gingerly around the edges of the dancers, trying not to affect their skin tones and or clothing too much, otherwise they will look very odd. Okay, I about reached the end of the first picture. From here, basically, it just comes down to adding little details and tweaks as you see fit, and as I have my own personal preference for the way things look most of the time. I'm sure that will vary greatly from one photographer to another. And it always varies for images too. I don't always do the same procedures for any image. I don't do a whole lot of replacing or body modifying or anything like that as far as beauty makeup goes. But I know some photographers who do what I consider an overabundance of it. They do a whole lot of skin smoothing and retouching, and pretty soon it looks like a fake person. It looks like a doll of some sort, and I don't really enjoy that. I don't want to necessarily have so much detail that everybody is very raw looking, and pores are visible, and try and make everybody look as good as possible, but I also don't go to an unrealistic fashion where it's, in my opinion, a gross misrepresentation. Something that's supposed to be, something that's live and supposed to be celebrating beauty and celebrating art, whether it's dance or otherwise. I don't think that should ever be adjusted to the point that it mimics some sort of fantasy. I mean, if you're doing a fantasy photo shoot, that's one thing, but anyway, I digress. I'm getting off on a rant. So the last thing is right here. There's a little bit of the woman's hair still visible, so I'm going to go in with the cloning tool, select right here, and just bring that pole down a little bit. Now, since I've eliminated that pole being sort of in the way, I can go back in with the vivid light brush and sort of touch up that last remaining part. A combination of vivid light brush and the real brush. Just going to eliminate that last section. Alright, so there's still a problem here of the green tarp. I'm also going to clone stamp right about there. And I'm just going to work it up and around. Until it makes a decent looking seam. Alright, so the very last thing I want to do as far as an adjustment is to just crop out that last layer right next to where her arm is at. Can't quite get in as close as I need to. Pull that back just a little bit. Alright, so then I would just adjust maybe some colors. I don't know, I actually kind of like that. So yeah, that's the image for today.